This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, December 19th of 2023. So glad you could join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Mike Anderson. He's the Executive Director of the Iowa Beef Industry Council. Had the chance to visit with him at the Iowa Cattlemen's Association Leadership Summit last week. We also have a check of that ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're talking with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. First off, Ross, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Hey, Riley, thanks for having me. We saw a little bit of risk-off trade across the grain markets in corn and soybeans. The wheat market was a little bit firmer, but corn was down 4 to 5 cents most of the day. Soybeans were anywhere from 15 to 18 cents lower today. Over in the wheat markets, they were 6 to 12 cents higher on wheat, so that was a little bit of a bright spot over in the grain markets.
So then, one of the things that's first off, we are in kind of a slow period of trading right now anyways, with those final 2 weeks of the calendar year. Everybody's kind of winding down, but looking at some news kind of globally that's had some impact. Of course, we're looking at Brazil, South America. I had just heard a report that a big storm went through Argentina, caused some damage there, potentially caused some delays and crop issues. But considering, what we see from Argentina, how much market share it kind of has, do we think there will be too much to really come from that?
Yeah, several good points you mentioned there, and like you talked about with the holidays this week and the holidays next week, every day that goes by from here on out, the trading and the volume will continue to get lighter. And South American weather remains the biggest story right now for the grain markets. It's the crucial part of the growing season, and the weather down there continues to remain mixed. You mentioned the storms that are going through Argentina, and yeah, Argentina has had some very good weather for the most part this growing season, which is kind of the thing that the soybean market is struggling with. We've seen good exports. We had another bean export announcement of 132,000 metric tons this morning, and the central to northern region of Brazil continues to have some issues. They've got good rains forecast, I think 2 to 4 inches over the next 10 to 14 days. But the Brazil crop is it's smaller versus what the initial forecasts were, but with their increased acreage that they're having in Argentina, the favorable weather that they've had so far this growing season, Argentina's output is almost twice as much as what it was a year ago, thrown in with the increased acres in Brazil. It's just the soybean market, it's just struggling to really go a whole lot higher, just given globally the market's comfortable with that. We're going to have ample amount of bean supplies.
And then looking at the livestock side of things, obviously been past couple months, we say it all the time, has been a bit of a roller coaster. What do we see going on in those marketplaces today?
We were a little bit softer across the fat cattle and feeder cattle market. Live cattle, the nearby contracts were down 80 to 85 cents. The deferreds weren't down near as much. They were called down 10 to 20 cents. We do have a cattle on feed report coming out this Friday. The guesses, the on feed is around 102.2. The placements number, the guess is around 96%. And the marketing is light. It's around 93.3%, I believe. There's no surprises, I don't think, in the on feed. I mean, we've seen more cattle getting held on feed a little bit longer right now up here in the north, but we are starting to see cash advance here a little bit over the last week. I know there's some optimism that we'll see some higher prices paid this week, so that is a good sign that we are starting to work through some of these numbers that are on feed. Keep in mind this on feed, it's on feed as of December 1. So we had a very large slaughter this last week. It was the largest of the year, surpassed in this past June's high slaughter by 2,000 head. So we are starting to see some increased demand, some increased packer interest as their margins have worked back into the black. So as you said, it's been a roller coaster across the cattle markets. The charts sure look like we probably put a low in here, but keep in mind we have had, since the lows here 2 weeks ago, we've had an $8 to $9 rally in live cattle. We've had a almost $15 rally in feeder cattle. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a little bit more profit taking, maybe some indecisiveness ahead of this cattle on feed report. But all in all, the cattle market, it's definitely looking and feeling a lot better than what it has been over the last couple months since the sell-off started. And it seemed like everywhere you looked, you just found bearish news.
And then looking at the hogs as well, kind of a similar story, but it really seems that in those hog markets, we've seen from pork cutout, there's very little action or, trade happening at all, right?
Yeah, hogs were a little bit lower here today. They had a good rally here last week. Last Thursday, the February contract was up its 375 daily limit, and we've just kind of entered some overbought levels on short-term technicals. So hogs today, I just with the trading volume going to start to lighten up, the pork cutout, it was lower here this morning. So I don't think it's a huge surprise if we don't see some profit taking here in the hogs as we enter the holidays here later this week.
Ross, lots of great information today for those of our listeners who'd like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net. How can they do that?
You can contact me directly here at our office in Anthon, 712-373-3276, or you can find any of the ag market brokers on our website, agmarket.net.
Great talking with you as always, Ross. And if we don't see you before Christmas, have a Merry Christmas, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Thanks for having me, Riley. Merry Christmas to you guys too.
That again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at how those numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. At the close, March corn down 4 1/4 at 472 3/4. January soybeans down 14 1/2 at 1312 1/2. January soybean meal down 960 at 403.20. Soybean oil up 9 cents at 50.73. Chicago wheat up 5 3/4 at 622 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat up 13 3/4 at 641 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat up 6 3/4 at 728 1/4. March oats up 1 3/4 at 385 1/4. On the Merc, February live cattle down 85 cents at 168.77. January feeders down 127 at 221.90. Lean hogs down 102 at 70.55. February pork cutout went unchanged once again at 81.72. And Class 3 milk for January up 6 cents at 15.65. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Mike Anderson, the Executive Director of the Iowa Beef Industry Council. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. At last week's Iowa Cattlemen's Association Leadership Summit, of course, cattle industry leaders for Iowa, even across the country, were in attendance. Had the chance to visit with the Executive Director of the Iowa Beef Industry Council, Mike Anderson, about some of the things they have coming up in the future, those promotional efforts that will continue to bolster the demand and support for Iowa beef products. First off, Mike, just tell us a little bit about what this past year has been like with the Beef Industry Council, and what are maybe some of the best things you saw from this year?
Yeah, well, this was my first year as the Executive Director of the Iowa Beef Industry Council, so just kind of getting to learn the lay of the land, but now can start laying some groundwork for some programs, either existing ones, improving those, or starting some new ones. And so over the past year, really tried to key in on our state research dollars, so that involves the extra 50 cents per head our state checkoff goes strictly towards production research. And so we work with several universities here throughout the Midwest, including Iowa State University, South Dakota State, and Nebraska, and some of those others, to really focus on the needs of producers and what they're looking for as far as production research. We take those dollars and then fund those projects. And so this next year, really want to key in on telling that story, what the results were from those projects, and moving forward, we'll ask for more ideas from producers on what to fund here in the future. So that's been one really neat program that we've trying to strengthen over this next year. We've also done a lot with our consumer side, with it's called a Build Your Base program, and really it focuses on sports nutrition for college, high school athletes. And so been working with some colleges, University of Northern Iowa, Iowa State, and some of them, and then also with some of high schools around the state, and really growing that program in the next few years, teaching the importance of protein for sports rehabilitation or replenishing those nutrients for those after athletic activities. And so that's another program that we've been looking to grow throughout. We've also really tried to do more of a better job, I should say, of telling our story to producers who then can tell that story to the consumer. Nowadays we're running at least probably 4 generations removed from the family farm and how food and where it's produced, and so we really have to be more kind of on the offensive part and telling the good things that we do as far as production practices to our consumers, as far as the environment and climate and that sort of stuff. So telling our story better over this next year as well.
So talking about that research and those efforts that have been going on, and you can kind of see as, unfortunately we did have a lot of challenges this year, but maybe the silver lining to that is that's a lot of opportunities for research and to learn new things. So, especially I know you guys from working with Iowa State have seen a lot of results from that. And, over the course of the year, I think you can say as well that even with those challenges, you come out stronger on the other side of it with that research and what you've learned.
Yeah, and to be in Iowa, we're uniquely positioned geographically. We're in the heartland of the country, in the middle of the country, and we've got, abundant resources as far as corn and feed supply. And so that really allows us to do a lot of those research projects with those cattle and producers that can benefit them, but also others throughout the country as well. So we've got the resources to do that as far as feedstuffs, the management practices as far as, winters here in Iowa can get kind of rough, and summers we've had a lot of drought, and so we can do projects on that as well. Plus we've got the full cattle cycle where we'll do projects on feeder calves, but also through the whole production cycle through the feedlot sector as well.
Right, and you mentioned as well telling that story and being proactive with telling the story instead of just being reactive and correcting people on what the story truly is. If we just put it out there in the first place, we could see that. And it's not just important for organizations like the Iowa Beef Industry Council to tell it. You got to have those members and those producers telling it as well. So it's kind of a whole industry effort to make sure that story is out there and the real information is out there from real producers.
Correct, you're exactly right. I think in the livestock industry as a whole, whether we're talking the beef industry or pork or poultry, we've kind of been more on the defensive side. We get to some of the activists and those that want to harm or put away livestock production, agriculture. We've been more proactive in telling our story from a more positive perspective, the good things that we're doing as far as production practices, environmental for soil and water practices and things like that, and how we're doing manure management on the livestock side of things, and especially in the beef industry. We've been the most sustainable as far as species because we've got cattle that graze the pasture and then turn that the manure into the nutrients to the ground, and then the corn grows, and it's a full life cycle. And so we're at a unique advantage in the cattle industry that we can really accentuate how that works from a production standpoint.
Right, and sustainability is kind of that big word, and there are a few industries that are more sustainable, or at least, like you said, more circular or cyclical in the way that they work with upcycling nutrients and making sure that it's more readily available for us to take advantage of as well. And what are some of those promotional efforts that people could look forward to seeing from the Iowa Beef Industry Council over the course of the year, or even some upcoming kind of promotional efforts that are really going to help like we said, tell that story of the cattle industry?
Yeah, I think just getting the word out, doing some more traveling, either from myself or our staff and especially our board members. We're partnering with the Iowa Cattlemen's Association with the Iowa Cattlemen's Leadership Program that they put on. And so the Iowa Beef Industry Council is doing more of that with some media training with those participants, really helping them prepare to tell their story when they're out, whether locally at a county-based event or regional, and even on a national level. just about the advantages of cattle production. And so we're really keying in on that to grow that select group of young people to tell that story as well.
Right, it can be intimidating to kind of sit there and think, well, I have to tell my story to a bunch of people, and it's not necessarily even asking that you just open up your farm for anyone to visit, but even just encouraging and being willing to engage in those conversations, and some of which might be a little difficult because, as we've mentioned, a lot of people are really far removed from the farm, but just being able to engage in those conversations in kind of a respectful way is, I think, a real key asset that we could have in this industry, right?
Correct, yep, you're exactly right, yep. And like you said, just the lack of education out there, and just especially with the young people, aren't growing up on production agriculture on farms or even acreages anymore. And so obviously in their mind, the food comes from a grocery store, and they don't really know the history of how that food got to the table. And especially on a global perspective, the U.S., we export a lot of beef to countries like Japan and South Korea and Mexico, China, and that's a huge market, not only for the U.S., but for Iowa in general. About over $400 per head of gain value for those U.S. export markets. And so that's been a key thing. We've sent board members and things like that, and staff members to trade mission trips to other countries to promote U.S. beef. And so that's been really eye-opening to see those other countries really value the quality product that the U.S. produces.
Mike, lots of great information today. For those of our producer listeners who would like to get in touch with the Iowa Beef Industry Council, learn more, and even check out where their checkoff dollars are going to, how can they do that?
Yeah, our website is www.iabeef.org, and you can find a bunch of information on there. We're continually making improvements on the website to make it easier for accessibility. We're on social media as well, on Facebook and Instagram and those types of things as well.
Mike, thanks for taking the time to visit with us today, and enjoy the rest of this Leadership Summit.
Thank you very much.
That again was Mike Anderson, the Executive Director of the Iowa Beef Industry Council. Let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, it was a very chilly morning this morning as you stepped outside. It has warmed up a little bit already, and kind of looking into the rest of the week, into the Christmas weekend as well. Temperatures are getting warmer, so unfortunately we will probably not see that white Christmas this year, but I don't think many of us are complaining when you can actually go outside and not feel like your toes are freezing off within 10 seconds. So let's see what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, today we have variably cloudy skies and warmer temperatures after a cold morning, those highs ranging from the mid-30s to upper 40s. Tonight we have mostly clear skies with those overnight lows ranging from the mid-20s to low 30s, and tomorrow clouds will increase, as will the temperatures, highs ranging from the low 40s to low 50s. And taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow, Cherokee will see increasing clouds with a high of 43, Shenandoah increasing clouds as well, a high of 51, Des Moines clouds will increase, high of 49, Waterloo mostly sunny, high of 45, Albia partly cloudy, high of 50, and Clinton will see partly cloudy skies with a high of 44. For a more detailed forecast in your part of the state, make sure to check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And if you're not sure who your local affiliate is, go ahead and check out iowaagnet.com. We have a list of affiliates on there, as well as our 5 daily ag news stories. You can also find our social media on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And there are our video products on our YouTube channel. You can find AMPM there primarily. All of those past episodes, hard to believe we're past the 400 mark already. It's been a long journey, but glad that you've all been able to join us along for that. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't done that already to see when those videos go live. And of course, as always, we have our free Twice Daily Market podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.